Welcome to ShovelTalk, a podcast for economic developers. From your friends at the Golden Shovel Agency.
Hello, Darren Varley back here to welcome you to another episode of ShovelTalk. This episode, we're very excited to welcome Bob Ahlfeld to the conversation. Bob is a business development specialist at St. Lawrence County Industrial Development Agency in upstate New York. And him and Bethany have a very great conversation talking a lot about the connection to the Canadian market, as well as some great stories about his days as a hockey broadcaster. So we're excited for you to meet Bob, and I'm going to pass it off to Bethany for our latest edition of ShovelTalk.
All right. Well, this is Bethany Quinn, and I am so excited to be here today with what I imagine will be my newest friend when we're done, Bob Ahlfeld. He is from Lawrence County IDA and has an incredibly interesting background that I'm hoping we can explore for a bit. So, Bob, welcome.
Thank you very much, Bethany. How are you today?
Oh, I'm very well. It is a bright and beautiful sunny day, and that makes everything better.
Well, it's been, we had frost here yesterday.
Okay.
We're a bit north. So if you're a golfer and the PGA championship is being held about 3.5 hours south of us
Okay.
at Oak Hill in Rochester, New York, they had a frost delay. So we had frost last night as well.
Wow. Well, it does make a big difference, I guess, just a few hours. I'm in Maryland, so the Mid-Atlantic is quite a bit different than where you are in New York.
We're very, very, very upstate New York. The familiar, to give you an idea, athletically, Syracuse is a big basketball, football school. We're about 3 hours north of them.
Okay.
Our county is located on the St. Lawrence River. We straddle the St. Lawrence River and the Adirondack Mountains, very close proximity to Canada. But I grew up in a town called Messina, which is right on the river. Growing up prior to 9/11 and all that other hubbub, going across the border was a weekly occurrence, athletically or even shopping or anything like that. So it's the communities on both sides of the river, depending where the bridge crossings are very coexist very nicely.
And actually, that's an interesting segue, because I did want to ask you later on in this podcast about your relationship as you see it working with Canadian partners.
Okay. Yeah. That's.
So we might as well jump to that now, right?
Sure, if you want to.
It's a very unique position to be so close to one of our strongest trading partners.
Yes. One of the ways we attract, there's two bridge crossings in St. Lawrence County, in Messina and Ogdensburg. Messina would be an industrial hub, more so than Ogdensburg has some industry. Messina has some heavy industry, but our advantage is, say, a company in Ottawa. Like, I'm in Canton, New York, which is the county seat currently. I can get to Ottawa in probably an hour and 10 minutes,
Okay.
even with a bridge crossing. So a company in Ottawa or that part of Ontario, if they're looking for a U.S. presence, can have their headquarters in Ottawa and maybe set up a satellite operation here somewhere in St. Lawrence County and be home, come down once a week and be home at night. So they have a U.S. presence, it's an easy bridge crossing. You don't have to go, you're not traveling too far. So that's one of the things we try and pitch a lot with companies that we're looking to attract.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you don't have to move your executives in that way.
Exactly. But we're heading up next week to talk to two companies who are thinking of expanding, and in other ways too. We can help. If you're looking even for distribution, you want to ship your product here and then get it out via the States. It's a little easier than going through all the customs. Would be easier to go across the bridge than, say, to go through Detroit or having to fly it, as an example. So you can ship it down here. We have some facilities you can use, and then you can truck it. Probably if you're going to the Midwest, you wouldn't use us, but if you're going to hit a Northeast market, New York City, Boston, it depends on how you drive, 6 or 7 hours from there as a drive. So it's a day, but it's not, a lifetime.
Well, and you said the border crossing is really convenient.
Correct. Yeah. More so than those that have crossed. There's the Peace Bridge in Buffalo is a extremely busy bridge. Buffalo, Niagara, that's way more heavily trafficked than our two bridges. I mean, we have traffic, but if you have 10, 12 cars, that's a lot. I mean, depends the time of day you go across, but for the most part, it's a much easier straddle than it is going across down in Buffalo way.
That makes sense. And obviously that's a huge advantage when you're trying to move products quickly.
And the same holds true, Bethany. I'm sorry. If you want to export it to Canada, same solution for you is, we're 4 hours from Toronto, hour and a half from Montreal, an hour to Ottawa. You're talking about 70% of the Canadian market is within that corridor. And their interstate highway 401 connects Toronto, Detroit up to Montreal, and it's a rather fun drive. I say that lightly because it's a bit of an adventure speed wise. They tend to drive a little faster over there. But
I have not driven in Canada. So
okay.
What is the speed limit? I don't even know.
Well, 100 kilometers, but that's a suggestion.
Got it. As long as the semi trucks aren't driving that fast, then we're
semi trucks are a bit different, but that is a that probably more so if you're down in Baltimore. I would make it akin to 95.
Sure.
For Canada, it's their artery. I mean, it's certainly for market to go from there's rail as well, and there's shipping also, which we can get to with what we have in our county as well. But for the most part, I mean, the highway is a major. So if you want to export and you don't want to be in Canada, but you can set up probably in Messina or Ogdensburg in our county, and then depending what product you want to export, you can get it over there.
That was actually what I was going to ask you, is whether or not you were working with local businesses in your community to help them start exporting.
We do. I mean, and most of them, the ones that do. I mean, there's, it's been a long history of trade between the two entities. I mean, if you're new and want to help, yeah, we can help with that as well. I think 30 years ago, it may have been a bit more onerous to do so. I think shipping's easier now than with the Amazons and every other logistical entity that's out there. But yeah, we assist our local businesses exporting as well, and we work with New York State Empire State Development, their economic development office, closely to assist companies within the state that if they want to come up here. We'd like to have more up here,
sure,
obviously, but we do.
Hence your role, right?
Yeah, that's what we're all trying to do. Is we're trying to get, we are the economic development arm for the county. So any business that's able to increase their operations and increase their employment levels is great, and not just attracting them to come here, but to help them expand their operations also. Yeah,
and again, you're very well situated to do that. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. It's a unique county. It's our sectors are manufacturing, agriculture, finance, renewables are big. Education, we have 5 colleges here for a county of 100,000.
You have 5?
We have 5, yes.
Wow. Okay.
Within Canton and Potsdam, and I'm in Canton, there's 2 here. SUNY Canton and St. Lawrence University, and then over in Potsdam is SUNY Potsdam and Clarkson University. So each has around between 2,000 and 3,000 students each. So,
okay.
So we import 12 to 13,000 18 to 24-year-olds, and then we export them, which
and hopefully keep some of them to enter your workforce, right?
We'd love to keep more. That's one of our challenges is for some of them, there aren't jobs here. And that's the challenge for us, is to find, to find the right link for them. For example, Clarkson's heavily tech engineering. It'd be RPI, RIT, MIT, WPI. It's one of those kind of schools. So, if you have a mechanical aeronautical engineering major, there's not a lot here for that particular student. That being said, there are a lot of civil going on up here. Sure. But there's also civil going on more so in Baltimore than there is, as I'm sure you're well aware of, in Maryland.
Right.
There's a little bit of engineering going on down there.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. But the four schools, if you did a Venn diagram of the four universities, it'd be a very small subset of kids that would go to all four, discounting an athletic. A student wants to maybe college soccer, but or basketball or something like that. But generally, like, it's SLU is liberal arts. It's sort of like a little Ivy in a lot of ways. Clarkson mentioned heavily tech and engineering. SUNY Canton has grown to a 4-year institution from a JUCO. They catch a lot of kids that maybe aren't a little more hands-on. And then Potsdam State is an education institution. Like the SUNY system in New York, it isn't like Maryland or where there's one major university. There's almost 60 colleges and universities around that make up the whole SUNY system. SUNY Potsdam, generally, most of their students are going to become teachers.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, if you're into opera and the arts, the Crane School of Music is a world-renowned institution. So if you're in New York State, if you get a music teacher, they were probably trained at Crane. If you're into opera, as an example, I'm not personally, but Renee Fleming, who's a world-famous opera singer, is a SUNY Potsdam alumna.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
well, to me, that speaks to a wide diversity of talent, though, that is available within your area. So when you're recruiting businesses, I could see that being a strong advantage.
Yes. When you're looking for R&D, especially for a manufacturing company, we can look at Clarkson. You can look at there and SUNY Canton for those kind of workers. I think every area of the country right now is struggling workforce-wise, training the workforce. We are trying to help with that in a lot of ways. Our secondary schools, our high schools have a couple BOCES, and we're working with them almost weekly now to try and introduce the local businesses to the kids that are in BOCES. And you mentioned colleges, and there's going to be I don't say a reckoning, but certainly is a 4-year degree useful for everybody?
Sure.
And it's coming up. On our end, it's a major economic driver. I mean, you're talking each of the colleges employs over 500 people. So at the same time, in 10 years, will those 4 schools be the same as they are now? And I think the ones that are able to find a way to be forward thinking at maybe the 4-year degree you and I got, I was a journalism major. Some of those majors are going to go away.
Sure.
And trying to find where you're going to be in 10 years, 15 years as a 4-year institution of higher learning is going to be key. At the same time we have a right now problem of we, the county, and we, the state, and we, the country, have a right now problem of, there's jobs available and we need people to do these things. There's got to be a student that can dig a ditch with a backhoe. It's a high demand skill right now.
Well, and we're seeing that throughout the country are things like the trades, which are so critical to developing our infrastructure and even the expansion of industry, are in short supply. We just don't have people filling those needs. Do you have training programs for the trades locally, or is it something that you're exploring?
We work with, I mentioned the BOCES. Before I came on board, started like maybe 3 or 4 months before I started in 2021. We're working with SUNY Canton. They have a CDLA training program. So, Bethany wants to become a CDLA driver. We can get help with a half and half grant. It's worked so well in some cases that some of the businesses have maybe put up for you, if Golden Shovel wanted you to get a CDLA, maybe they put up the money or half the money and you put up the rest. It's a double-edged sword. The Golden Shovel puts you up and gets you a CDLA, and then all of a sudden you're more marketable. So you can go to somebody else for more money because now you have a CDLA.
Right.
But I mean, the idea is we at the IDA have started that program. That has spawned a heavy equipment operator program. We're looking into fiber splicing as well.
Okay.
Most certainly expanding broadband is a big deal, and that's probably the next step for us. We partner with the institutions, we don't have an expert. We have a 7-person staff here, so we find the institution that and get the grants and talk to like the heavy equipment operators. One of my coworkers sat down with the town supervisors. There's 30 towns in the county, but their executive board, and said, "Hey, what do you guys need?" And they said, "Well, we all need someone to drive a backhoe."
Sure.
So, and there's a way that, the student that's not going to get the 4-year degree and become a music teacher or become an engineer, here's a job for you, and you're going to have a good career. You're going to be paid. You get a skill.
Right.
So,
Now, how are you getting students to participate, to sign up? Because that is actually one of the larger struggles that I'm seeing across the board, is economic development organizations are starting to do a really good job of working with their workforce training partners like you
yes.
are. But it's not always easy to get the students interested. So what has been your formula?
Well, it wasn't our formula, the BOCES program. They have now, there's 3, our county's vast. We'll give you an idea. Our county is in the land area larger than Rhode Island.
Oh, wow.
We have 100,000 people, a little over 100,000. So the 3 BOCES centers for the divvying up the 20 high schools around, they're all getting waiting lists now, because I think kids are starting to see that, and not every student wants to sit and read a book. That's not a bad thing. I mean, everyone should be able to read, but that's not every kid's, success story in a lot of ways. So the BOCES programs, I think, are really, it's been what I have an uncle who graduated in the 70s in BOCES and ended up running his own tool and die shop in Rochester, New York. He went to a tool and die maker, ended up taking over the company.
Oh, nice.
And he started work, graduated on a Saturday, was down there on a Monday in Rochester, from Messina to Rochester, and he's now 64, retired, very happy.
Sure.
And he's the kind of kid that wasn't going to sit in a class for 4 years, and very hugely successful. The BOCES programs have been around for all this time. I think they're finally, with our help as well, but they're finally starting to promote themselves within to the. It's part of the curriculum at all the schools, but I think there was a time when the BOCES programs up here, it was for the kids who couldn't, they're going to BOCES. Well, now it's like kids are starting to see that, hey, he's going to BOCES.
It became cool.
Well, a great example of this is both of my sons play hockey. One's in college right now, and one in high school. They had a preseason scrimmage this year in November, and at our rink in Canton, between the 3rd and 4th games, the Zamboni broke down, and there was a weld that had to be done. One of my son's teammates was in the welding program at BOCES. He sent his mom home to get his welding equipment, and he welded the Zamboni back together.
Oh my goodness.
And they're able to play the rest of the day. They had to
Wow, what a cool story.
Yeah. To his credit, my son JJ's hockey coach looked at Bowen, the young man that was the welder, and said, "Hey, some of you guys pick on the BOCES kids. Well, this is what the BOCES student just did."
Right. Made it so you could play.
Yeah. Yeah. Bowen's going to graduate this year and already has a job somewhere around here as a welder. He'll do incredibly well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are really good stories. And I think that's part of the key, is students being able to see other students experience success, actually get into their career and enjoy their experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for everywhere, whether you're in the Midwest or Texas or anywhere in the US right now, if you have that kind of skill, you're going to get a job. I mentioned the BOCES, one of their they also have a nursing program. And obviously that is a need as well. A visiting nurse can make $300,000-$400,000 a year if they market themselves well.
Sure. But there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think that's the point. And, across the board, we're starting to look at pathways to careers a little bit differently and recognizing that not everyone is the same, and it's really important to match people's aptitudes and interests with the pathway that'll get them to the job they'll actually enjoy.
And there's a demographic challenge too. Again, I mentioned my son JJ. He's born in 2007. The 07s, 08s, 09s, that was the last major recession. There's a birth dearth coming. So I mentioned the colleges, they're going to struggle with that because all the colleges need fresh 18-year-olds. There's going to be a lack of them compared to what's coming on the backside. So there'll be a bit of a dip for 3 or 4 years because of the recession. So that's going to carry through 15 years from now. Who's going to work? Maybe I'll be retired by then. I don't know, but
maybe not.
Yeah.
I have an 07 boy too. So maybe on the plus side for our families, they'll get more scholarships, right? I don't know.
That's the one, we talk about one of the challenges, I think, for higher education is you're going to find some of the smaller liberal arts schools are going to have some problems filling seats. And your college is expensive and it's not getting any cheaper. They're not.
I know. Hey, I did want to ask you about one of your target industries because it looked like you're experiencing high growth in the renewable sector.
We are.
What have you done to attract that?
Well, the state, has a mandate to get, to go completely green by 2030 or get to that pathway. So agriculture and the dairy industry is big up here. We're the second or third largest county dairy production wise. The dairy producers are now kind of either going big or going home. So they're consolidating, but there's a lot of land available. And since the state wants renewables, we're getting a lot of solar interest. So it's both residential and commercial scale. The commercial is just starting to really there's one big project likely to happen just south of us. The river, so the St. Lawrence River connects the Great Lakes to the Atlantic. We have locks here that help the ships go through, so if you're on the Great Lakes, you see a laker that's over 1,000 feet wide. The locks were built in 1958. So I think it's 760 feet is the maximum length of a boat that can get through the locks. So the lakers can't get out to the Netherlands. They have to ship to another smaller ship to get it out. But it's along with building the seaway system for shipping, we built the power dam. So the Moses Saunders Power Dam connects Canada and the U.S. There's 32 turbines that feed it. Ontario uses 16. We use 16. It produces over 1,000 megawatts a year. So with the renewable interest, and we have hydro as renewable, although more so the government seems to be pushing wind and solar, but renewable's been around since, a long time.
Sure.
Our county in the village of Messina, there's Air Products has announced the intention to set up shop in Messina. That came around July. With that and with the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act, we're getting slammed with interest. Some of them are, Bethany, Bob, and Steve have a couple pops at the pub and say, let's try and take advantage of some Rex credits and get a hydrogen facility. We've never done it before, but we can make some money and get out of there.
Sure.
Others are a little more tangible.
That makes sense.
So Air Products is promising 90 jobs. If they start, it's hydrogen production. So yeah, we are getting a lot of interest in that space, whether it's hydrogen production, maybe some ammonia, the solar's getting bigger around the state. But our county, given the available land, agricultural land was used for agriculture. It's not being used for agriculture now. So sure. What's the landowner to do? Like they're not, maybe they were a family farmer. They didn't get absorbed by one of the bigger dairies. They have this land. They want to retire. Dairy is an industry, and it isn't the mom and pop anymore. It's not 40 cattle, and it's you got to be 2,000-3,000 to be profitable. So what do you do with the land? Should we keep the land agricultural, or should we but it's landowner's land, right? They can do what they want to do with it. And if someone's going to offer you X amount of money, it's maybe you'd be hard pressed not to take it.
Sure.
We just got one the other day. As a matter of fact, it's very James Bond sounding. It's like Project Pluto or Project
Top secret.
Xbox.
Burn after you read.
Yeah, they're looking for 50 megawatts to 70 megawatts of power, promising 100 jobs. We're looking for maybe a 500 million capex. Looking for the right site and land. It's got to have 100% renewable energy to power it. All those things. So.
Sure.
We had a company in the fall that visited, and we worked closely with the New York Power Authority. The Power Authority is the one that gives the power. I can't just, you and I, Bethany, can't just say, well, you need 90 megawatts, get in line. There's an entire podcast of that to get that process. Yeah. So there's, a lot of steps to go through. It's an interesting push and pull between the companies and how we're doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's common across the board, right? Is how do you bring in these new investments while also preserving who you are and then the community that everyone enjoys and is why they're there.
Well, I mentioned the Air Products, Messina, I grew up there. I was born and raised there. My parents were born and raised there too. Both my grandfathers were Alcoa guys. Alcoa, Reynolds, and General Motors. From Alcoa began at 2. And then Reynolds and General Motors, when the power project was completed in 1958, moved there as well. When I was younger, there was almost a little over 7,000 workers in Messina. Now, not all of them live there. Most of them did. Now, Alcoa and Arconic are still alive and well. Alcoa bought Reynolds and then closed that facility. GM, well, we all know what happened to GM. That plant is just closed. It's gone. It's a great parcel of land. Racer Trust has it right now. They're trying to redevelop it, but the manufacturing problem is it all kind of went down in like the early 2000s. If it happened maybe 5 years ago, there's still a manufacturing workforce.
Sure. Now they're gone.
Workforce is there hasn't been I'll go work for the union at the mill and have a great life. So those parts of Messina are still longing for that. They have that back. And, one of our jobs, they'll get it back. But, there's also the factors of it's good for the environment. And that's where I mentioned the interest in the renewables, maybe a window into to get them back to some heavy manufacturing.
Sure. Well, and it sounds like you have opportunities to do that more than in the past, like you said, with the state mandate and the interest.
Yes. Our CEO has been here almost 30 years. They were like, we've never seen this much interest.
Sure.
You get 5 leads from Empire State Development a year. It's a good year. We got like 20 in 6 months. And again, some of them are all leads are created equal. Some leads are more equal than others.
Sure.
So
some of the bar hatched ideas, as you mentioned. Yeah. No, it's exciting opportunity for you guys regardless. Bob, you mentioned earlier that you are new to economic development and your path to get here. I personally found pretty interesting how many other economic developers have actually served as a broadcaster for NCAA Division I Hockey. Probably not very many. What was that experience like? Or are you still doing it?
I still do it. Yeah. Began as journalism major, then radio. It's a lot of fun. Some things, if you can do as a career, it'd be great. But it's a good entree sometimes to people interested in sports. Another way to get someone to chat, and once they may find your background, you're able to maybe get in with someone more so than, you're always looking for the right connection, right? As to how to talk to somebody. And being around hockey the way I am, it's an incredibly small world. Like it really is. There's someone that knows someone that, I do the play-by-play for Clarkson University. I've been lucky the past 3 years to do our league championships, which is the ECAC on ESPN Plus feeds. It's just a great connector in a lot of ways.
Do you play hockey?
I did not, believe it or not. I grew up in a very hockey-centric town. My father was a basketball coach, and I played basketball in high school. But Messina is a heavy hockey. Our county's a heavy hockey area. Both my sons play. One's in college now, as I mentioned. One's still a sophomore in high school and playing a lot of hockey. Maybe someday he'll play college hockey. Who knows? I don't know what level he'd play, but it's just hockey's a different world in a lot of ways. The connection, even if it's just you've played youth hockey, if you're a youth hockey parent, I'm holding up a Dunkin' Donuts cup right now. You know what a 6 a.m. practice is when it's
Sure.
20 below zero.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to know what a 6 a.m. practice is like 20 below zero personally, but I'll take your word for that.
It's a very small world and a wonderful world to be in. I'm still very doing the game for 25 years. Still guys that are when I began doing it, I was younger. They're now have kids, and I'm seeing them with their sons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they've been their kids back, and it's a wonderful place to be. It's a haul. It's weekends. It's pretty much every weekend from October to March. Our league is Friday, Saturday mostly. Once in a while, I have a Tuesday game, but so and it's travel. I mean, our league is this coming year I'll be at Notre Dame. We're close to Lake Placid. The league we cover has got the 6 Ivies that play hockey. Mm-hmm. So Columbia and Penn don't. And then Colgate and St. Lawrence and Clarkson are weird animals in that they're Division III. Well, you're familiar with Johns Hopkins, right? Johns Hopkins has Division
My son's starting at Hopkins in the fall.
Okay, so they have Division I lacrosse. Mm-hmm. But play Division III every other sport. Clarkson and St. Lawrence have Division I hockey, but play Division III in every other sport.
Okay,
so that's how. We play Michigans, we play Quinnipiac, who just won the national championship this year, is in our league. Boston University, Boston College, we go out to the west of Denver and North Dakota. So, so we travel everywhere.
Yeah, you're on the road a lot. And I will tell for all of our listeners who don't live in the East Coast that, believe it or not, from what you see on the map, these communities are not within 30 minutes of each other. So there is a bit of a drive. And I do say that with all due respect, because I get asked that all the time. Oh, you can get to Boston in like an hour. No, you cannot get to Boston in an hour from Maryland.
From here to Boston, I have a running joke that it's only 6 hours. It's over the Adirondacks and over. If I wanted to catch a Red Sox game tonight, although I'm a Yankee fan, so I wouldn't go there on purpose, but I could get to Fenway if I left after this podcast is over. I'd be in Boston by 5 and be at the game. Not that I'm jonesing to do that because I'm a Yankee guy.
Oh, but you should definitely wear your Yankee gear.
Oh, well, had I known, I would have. This was video. I'd have the full regalia.
Yeah, you'd be well received. No,
by some, when the Red Sox fans would be pelting their screens.
Right. Exactly.
But you mentioned I think when you're in business development, having another avenue, whether it be the arts or what I'm doing, something like that is always a way to connect. On your LinkedIn profile, like you reach out to X company and they see what else you've done, and that you never know who you know, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, I see you did play-by-play for Clarkson. Did you know Scott Rickey? I'm a guy in Ottawa who played at Clarkson and does very well in Ottawa. I'm like, yeah, I know him very well. There's your connection, right? And then you're able to, whether it comes to anything or not, it's who you know. And then once you're in, well, yeah, I met Bob, and maybe that company isn't going to come here, but that company is connected with other companies that say, hey, at their mixture, like, you ever talk to anybody in the States? Well, yeah, I talked to this guy, Bob, over St. Louis County. I want to talk to him. Sure. And then it starts. So that's how it. So again, whether it be, what I'm doing, whether it be arts, whether it be anything, any extracurricular in a lot of ways can really help.
Yeah, you need that connector. And before you got into economic development, you were in media sales, correct?
I was in media sales, and I also worked at Clarkson in fundraising for a number of years. So when you're talking business development, I've worked on a commission, which ain't easy.
No, especially with the family.
No, that's one of the reasons they get out of commission work. But I understand, each of us, so we know what it's like, even if you get to check a box. So just getting to talk to somebody, sure, helps their numbers. And I'm not saying that you're doing it just to do that. You never know what the vendor's going to lead to, but whether it be media sales or fundraising or this kind of business development, it is connections. There's always an old media strategy is there's radio sales. Basically, people buy from those they know, like, and trust.
Sure.
And if, they know and they like you and hopefully they trust you, you're turning over 1,000 rocks for 2 gems.
Mm-hmm.
But the rocks that aren't turned over, if they're treated right, might help you lead to a gem.
Right. Absolutely. And with economic development, it's the long sale too, which is so totally different. You're not going to sell a project usually in a couple months. I mean, you could be working on a project for 3 to 5 years. Things are escalating faster than what I've seen historically, but still, I mean, those relationship building skills are critical.
Well, you're talking, if you're bringing in a capex of 500,000 and want to start even 30 employees, where are you going to go? How do you want to build it? Where is it going to be? If you talk to the state about, I want this spot here, so it's great, but are there wetlands there? Just little things like that. Those things don't happen in a week and a half.
Yeah, not by any means. So you do have to continue to maintain that relationship. And like you said, maybe in your case, some of it's through hockey, which is pretty cool.
It very well could be, yeah.
Well, hey, Bob, I just realized we've been having such a good conversation, what time it is, and we still need to do our shovel toss game.
Okay.
So just a recap for anyone who has not listened to our podcast before, that means I am going to pepper Bob with some rather odd questions, absolutely unrelated in any way to economic development. And Bob's going to answer as fast as he possibly can.
Okay,
you good? All right. What is the funniest thing that's happened to you while broadcasting hockey?
My second year in Wisconsin, I was in the broadcast booth because of a tournament, and I had 3 guys who were completely hammered in front of me, and they were completely hammered.
Did they make it on air? That's the question.
Well, I was having to turn on my crowd mic, so I was younger, and I went to commercial break, and I finally got a bit angry, and I was like, you know what? Tell you what I'm going to do. What do you guys do for a living? We're bankers. I'll tell you what. On Monday, I'm going to sit in your office, drink a 6-pack, and scream at you for an hour and a half. How would you guys feel? And they stood up, and they're both all 6'4", and I'm 5'8". I'm like, I'm done.
I'm not making it out of here.
Yeah, but the funny part was we had to play the next night, and Wisconsin was playing the championship. Wisconsin was beating Clarkson, so the guy who was the most vociferous had his wife with him that time, and she kind of points at me as my bracket was over, and she goes, I apologize about him last night. I heard he was kind of an idiot.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, okay.
All right, well, apparently I'm making it out of Wisconsin.
I thought I was going to get thrown down the stairs, yeah.
Favorite band?
Probably original Van Halen.
All right, that's a good one. Favorite vacation destination?
I really haven't done a destination in a long time. Somewhere with access to golf courses and a beach.
All right. The book you are reading right now.
Theodore Rex, about Teddy Roosevelt.
Something you wish you had never worn.
I think in junior high, I wore a goofy cowboy shirt one day and got razzed deservedly for the day. So,
that sounds about right.
Yeah,
my horror stories are all from middle school too, so I think that might be a rite of passage.
Yeah.
All right, the weirdest food you've ever eaten.
Vietnamese food.
Your role model.
Probably my father.
Funniest nickname.
For some reason, my dad called me Bummer for a lot of years. I was lazy.
Maybe. Yeah, that is a funny one. Okay, if you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
I guess Superman kind of covers the whole gamut.
Sounds good. And last but not least, what do you want to be remembered for?
That I cared, I guess. Cared about how you were treated, how things went, how, whether it was successful or not, that we cared enough to try.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I think that goes back to your relationship building, what you're talking for. Very cool. Well, Bob, I really enjoyed our time together. And like I said at the beginning, hopefully we are now fast friends.
Yes.
Know more about your hockey history. And I really also enjoyed being able to learn more about Lawrence County and your connectivity to Canada and some of the opportunities you're seeing in the renewable sector. It's really interesting because I feel like there's a lot of misperceptions in regards to New York State holistically, right? People tend to identify Manhattan. So to have you be able to share your story, talk about you're still very heavy agriculture, still a desire for manufacturing, it's just a very different lens to take.
Yeah, and we're again, it's the joke about New York is, it ends in, Poughkeepsie, which is still 4.5, 5 hours from here. There's a lot of state up here, and there's a lot of great areas of New York State to live, Western New York, Central. I mean, all of them are terrific. We have the Adirondacks, we have the Olympics in Lake Placid, where I'm an hour, 20 minutes from Lake Placid. I don't ski, but if you want to ski, you can go there. So it's a great state in a lot of ways. It takes its lumps sometimes, and some of the lumps we've earned ourselves. Some of them, are forced upon us. But I think it's a great place to live.
And hopefully, after this conversation, more of our listeners have a better understanding of what New York is like on the whole as well.
We're not just Long Island and New York City, which are, and if you want that, that's the beauty of it. You want that kind of life. It's a great place to be too. It's an interesting place to be. Another working at Clarkson, I had to meet an alumnus Manhattan down by Madison Square Garden. We had coffee at 9 in, and I was back from my kids' hockey game at 6 p.m.
Oh yeah, that's great, and such a huge difference too.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a cultural difference.
Well, Bob, thank you again so much. It was a pleasure, and I wish you well in Lawrence County.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Bethany. Before we sign off today, I do want to let you know that Golden Shovel is growing again. We have added Brady Moeller as a marketing coordinator, and we've added 2 new members to our content team, Joseph Weidenhofer and also Sabrina Williamson. So we're excited to keep growing. If you do want to check out more about these new additions to the team, please check out goldenshovelagency.com and also check out our jobs page. We've always got openings listed on our jobs page. Also, one thing I do want to give you a reminder of, if you are a Golden Shovel client, you probably have been receiving emails in 2023 highlighting our new shovel tips. These are short videos on a variety of topics. It could be training exercises for our Economic Gateway admin content management system. It could be learning how to grow your LinkedIn followers. So these are going to be on a variety of topics to hopefully make your life a lot easier. Golden Shovel social media accounts. Facebook, like us at ShovelTalk. Twitter, follow us at Gold Shovel. LinkedIn, follow us at Golden Shovel. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Golden Shovel Agency. Thanks again for joining us on Shovel Talk, and we're going to be back very soon with our latest guest.